Welcome to the Peep Show podcast.
Your glance at sex and social justice.
With Jesse and PJ Sage. Welcome back to another episode of the Peep Show podcast. We have a great show for you today. We will be interviewing Vera Sky, 2017 XBIZ Cam Model of the Year, about her life, challenges, and successes. But before we get into that, we would like to remind you that we have a Patreon and we would appreciate your support. You can visit us at patreon.com/peepshowpodcast. But before Vera, the news. We've had quite a week. The whole country's had quite a week, actually.
I think that's a fair way to say it.
It's not just us. And we come to you with significantly less excitement than we had last week.
True. I'm really enthused about the interview we'll have for you later, so I don't want to...
There is that. It's not all bad.
It's not all doom and gloom. We have a really great conversation for you. However... There's an elephant in the room that we probably can't ignore.
Yeah, and the elephant's name is Kavanaugh.
Brett Kavanaugh.
Brett Kavanaugh.
Judge Brett Kavanaugh.
Oh, God.
Who is probably at this point all but certain to be appointed to the Supreme Court.
It's actually so difficult for me to talk about because I find it all so upsetting. So actually, in a bit of positive news, I guess I should say that my first column came out this week. I chose to talk about in the column what was going on with the Brett Kavanaugh hearings because I don't think that there's any way that we can do the sort of work that we're doing and ignore what's happening at the level of the Supreme Court.
Right. And I think importantly, what's happening in society right now, regardless of what the outcome of the Kavanaugh hearings and this FBI probe is. And I'm not saying there won't be profound consequences to having a fifth conservative Supreme Court justice, but also there's just a much broader cultural conversation that is going on right now that I don't want to say this sparked, but it's certainly stoked. It certainly certainly exemplified the need for the conversation that we've been having about men's behavior, about harassment, about the kinds of things that women have to endure.
When Christine Blasey Ford came out with her story about the encounter that she had with him while they were in high school, one of the biggest things that people kept asking her was, why did she only talk about it 35 years later, which spurred on many, many, many women talking about why they didn't report their own experiences of harassment and sexual assault and rape with a hashtag why I didn't report. And that was really striking for a couple of reasons. One is that it showed the ubiquity of sexual violence against women, against almost all the women that I know came out with some sort of stories about sexual assault.
Yeah.
But also it showed the way in which women are treated when they do come out. So a lot of people talked really specifically about the fact that maybe they did come out the first time they were assaulted, and that experience was so negative that the second and the third and the fourth time that they were assaulted, they didn't even bother.
Right. And I mean, that was the grand irony of those hearings where you had like a bunch of old white dudes being like, well, why didn't you come out? And then you're like, this is why. Look at you. Look at how you're behaving right now.
Yeah, and it was so difficult for me and for, I know, a lot of other women that I know to watch any of this because it was like the drama of our own lives being played out. I noticed that people were telling a lot of different sorts of stories. They weren't just talking about violent sexual assault or rape. Instead, they were talking about the times that they were harassed, or the times that they were told that they wouldn't make it as a woman, or the times that they were told that they were too pretty to have the sort of ambitions that they have, or the times that they were discriminated against for having children, or for wearing a low-cut shirt, or for whatever, for just even having a body, having a female body. The putting on display of that sort of trauma that women collectively experience over and over again throughout the course of their entire life was something that was fairly profound to me, but I know to a lot of other folks as well.
Yeah, I think it was very emotional. The other thing that really stood out to me was just the display of male anger and aggressiveness, both with Judge Kavanaugh, but also like with Lindsey Graham, with Donald Trump.
Yeah.
And this kind of conversation about, oh no, look, men have to worry now, as if this moment is like a tragedy for men because a few men have to face a reckoning for their behaviors, as opposed to the women who have endured decades of sexual harassment and abuse and denied opportunities. But what I would like to see is men coming forward, talking about how shitty they were when they were younger.
Oh, yeah.
For every woman who comes forward talking about a boy or a man who sexually harassed her, there was a boy or a man who sexually harassed her.
Right.
The burden shouldn't only be on women to like dredge up their traumas.
Right.
In order to validate each other's experiences. But like some of us as men need to come forward and say, actually, I was socialized in a really shitty environment.
Right.
And, you know, the behavior that was modeled for me was misogynistic and sexist. And as a young person, I internalized some of that, you know, but then I learned that what I was doing was wrong.
Right.
And I think a lot of us experience that.
I think we need to talk about our history. I think we need to talk about systems of power. And I think that if we were to do that, if we were to talk about how is it that we are all socialized and how can we reflect on that socialization and the sorts of behaviors that socialization fosters. And I think that if we could do that and we could have a real conversation about masculinity, I mean, there's a lot of talk about toxic masculinity, but I think that we need to do better at having those conversations with men that men are a part of, because I think that's part of the problem is that there's a lot of talking from women about toxic masculinity that falls in the all men are trash sort of categories. And while I understand where that's coming from because of all of our collective trauma, I also think that we need to have real conversations about why is it that men are behaving like that? And we need to have them with men. I don't think the burden is on women to teach men what they're doing wrong. I think men need to take a more active role in this, particularly when our labor is typically discounted.
I think that men also need to not be so effing defensive and take some like responsibility for stuff you did in the past. Like, you know,
which I think is what the Listen to Women hashtag is about too. Like, stop being so defensive and listen to what we're saying.
Like, I just feel like there's a third path between deny, and burn someone at the stake.
Right.
I'm not saying that like we should give sexual predators a free pass, but I would like to see more men being like, yeah, I did this thing that was really wrong. Here's why I now understand it to be wrong. I'm sorry.
Here's the thing though. We've provided men now with enough information for them to take that information and reflect on it and start to have conversations about what they should do with that information.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I guess what I'm saying is what men need to do is not wait around for women to tell them how to atone for their behavior.
I remember talking about this with Andre Shakti about the fact that when a lot of women in like sex education or in feminist circles or in sex work are doing a ton of work to bring these stuff to the fore, to educate, but the people who are showing up for these conversations are not cisgendered men. Women, non-binary folks, trans folks, all of us have a vested interest in seeing this get better, and we're talking to each other about it, but the ones who can make it better are cisgendered men, and they're not showing up for these conversations, and they need to show up for them.
Yeah. And honestly, I don't have all the answers. I don't know how men are supposed to reckon with our past, you know, the way that we treat women collectively, even today. But I do know that until I see men being proactive and trying to figure this out, I'm going to be like embarrassed to be like a cis man.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, something has to change. Men have to actually step up.
We are here with Vera Sky. From her humble beginnings of 6 people in her chat room, 125 tokens to her name, and 12 Twitter followers, Vera Sky has pushed through the ups and downs of the industry for 5 years and has blossomed into the quintessential North American cam model of the year. So welcome. Thanks so much for joining us today.
I'm very excited.
Yeah, I'm excited too. So tell us a little bit about your career.
I started camming, literally weeks after I turned 18, and it was very light. I would just kind of like hop on sites here and there, just kind of like to get the hang of it, see how it works, see if the tokens were even real. I didn't understand it. And I didn't understand when I first started. Someone gives me 100 tokens online. That's however much money that is. Like, is that real? Is this a scam? And I didn't take it seriously until I think I was about 19. And like everybody else, I was on the lowest of the low on the pages. I'm literally talking like 2 people in my room, and I would watch the top models and I would see, I remember the first time I ever watched cam models, I think I saw someone get tipped like 20,000 tokens. And I eventually did the math and I was like $1,000. I was like, $1,000 she just made. That's incredible. Like a lot of people that enter the industry, I thought it was really easy money. I thought I wouldn't have to put in any work. I thought it was just, be a pretty face, show your boobs, the end. And when I got on and I would sit there and I would slave away for like 9, 10, 11-hour shifts. And I would literally make $20. I was like, how is this done? Like, there's so much more to this. Mm-hmm. So I stuck with that for a very long time, really trying to get the ropes of it. And it was probably 2.5, 3 years before I ever found any real kind of success, however you want to determine success. I found what I thought was success. And it's really being consistent and staying with it. And I think of all of the times that I was on cam and it was a really slow night and I would say, you know what, I just need to get off. But it's something told me to push through it. And, maybe an hour and a half in, a new tipper came by and he tipped a few thousand tokens. And, that made my night.
What do you think helped your success besides just being on consistently?
With me personally, because I like to speak for myself and I don't like, my story is like my story. And I always like to make sure, like, whenever people ask me questions, I say, this is what worked for me. It's not going to work for everybody else. But eventually I was on one website and I was struggling a lot. And I was practically bullied off that website. So I went ahead and I found another website. When I started camming on that website, who I was as a person was just more accepted. And when I went to the website where what I looked like was accepted and was what sold, that's when things started taking off. And I think with me, I brought an entertainment aspect. And I think a lot of people think, camming is just show your boobs. And I really think it's about being an entertainer. And you have to really, in my experience, get really personal with your tippers. I know some people don't like to talk outside of cam. They just want to get on cam, do their Snapchat, do their social media stuff, and that's it. But personally, what worked for me was being really close with my tippers. And once I got to know them and they got to know me and we felt comfortable, they started to feel like I was a friend. And I told myself I wanted to approach it like, what would it be like if I treated these people the way I treated my friends that I've known since elementary school? I treated them as real friends and not tippers. And I was just like another level of close with them. And I know not everybody's comfortable with that. Yeah. That's why I say it work for everyone. But for me, being as true to myself as I can and as I could be is what really just, I think, helped me skyrocket.
I do less camming and I do more phone sex, but I do some camming as well, or I have in the past more than I do now. But
we've done a lot of camming.
We've done a lot of camming.
we've put in our share of hard-earned screen time. Yeah, you don't have to downplay it.
Yeah, but it's so interesting to hear you say that because I know a lot of people are really good at personas or do, have different acts that they do. And for me, I was way more like you, where that was actually really hard for me to do. And then as soon as I just embraced, I'm just going to be who I am. And I'm going to talk to people about my life and where I am in my life and what I do when I'm not, on cam or on the phone. That changed my relationship with my clients.
I couldn't hide what my life was, who I was, everything about me. When I would go missing for 2 weeks at a time on cam, I couldn't just tell people, oh, I forgot to cam. It was hey, I have an ulcer and I'm not doing well.
Yeah.
And it made them more understanding. And they wanted to help. They get so generous. Can we help you with medicine? Can we help you with treatment? Is there anything we can do to make your day-to-day life better?
You sort of dispelled the myth that this is easy money and talked about how you really had to persist for years at doing this work before you found success. So if it wasn't easy money that motivated you, which is what so many people assume the motivation is, what got you through those early years? What attracted you to camming in the first place?
I had no option originally. When I was living at my boyfriend at the time's house, and my grandma contacted me and was like, listen, I have nothing left and I will have no place to live. So I remember I got on Craigslist, applied to I can't even tell you how many jobs. And it would have been days I hadn't heard back from anybody or anything. And then I get back on Craigslist and I see an advertisement for My Free Cams. What the hell is My Free Cams? And that's how I ended up discovering it. But on those hard days where it was impossible, and I worked like vanilla jobs for a while throughout it until I got the hang of it more and started making a little more money. But I had 7 siblings to take care of. I had my grandmother to take care of. I had to feed myself. There was no option for it to work. So when you and your family and everybody you love relies on it working, it creates a level of motivation within you that I can't even describe it.
Wait,
it was just
so you're saying you're the oldest of 7 siblings or 8 siblings?
Yes, I am. The youngest is 9.
Holy cow.
Wow. So you take care of them?
Yes, I do. There's just like a couple, situations that go on in my family, and I have to take care of them, and they go through private school. And that was something else that was definitely a motivation for me, that I didn't want them to be raised the way that I was raised. And I wanted them to have a great education, and I wanted them to have all of the best things that they could have in life. And that involved needing money. There's 7 of them, $7,000 a year tuition, feeding 7 mouths and yourself and your grandmother and your dogs is just, it was crunch time. So.
Yeah. Wow. I really admire you.
Yeah. I think we have it hard with 3 and a few pets, but geez.
No, we still have it hard. Still. No, we have it hard. 1 is enough. Believe me. Oh, and they're my siblings, by the way, before someone thinks I have 7 kids, because I always talk about them. And they're like, you're 23 and have 7 kids? I'm like, no.
You're like, that doesn't even make any sense.
That math doesn't work.
Oh,
People start telling you look amazing for 7 kids.
You look so good. How did you do that? I'm like, no. They're siblings. Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's really amazing, I think. So one of the things that you said is that the first site you were working on before you went over to Cam Soda, you were kind of bullied off that site. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I guess I first want to start with saying that, again, that I speak for myself and myself only. I'm not trying to generalize a site or give a site a bad image, because this is just my experience.
Yeah.
And I was on MFC, which is a fantastic site. But when I started, I don't know why I got the bad end of the stick. But I did, and I was very low on the page, and we all like to know trolls like to scroll through the, low girls and bully them all the time. And it started with comments like, you should brush your hair.
Wow.
Or, your hair looks like a bird's nest. Because being a woman of color, being biracial, I had extremely curly hair, and I used to wear it very natural, and now it's just fried off. So I can't even wear curly anymore if I wanted to. But I started with comments like that. And then it would start with comments like, your lips are really big. Your lips are a little too big, or your butt is really big. It's a little too big. And then I would get the comments like, what are you? What do you mean? What am I?
Yeah.
What are you? I'd be like, well, what is my race? I'm mixed. They're like, with black though? And I'm like, yes. And they're like, oh. And then they would leave my room and never come back. And it was just things like that. And I had my fair share of people coming in the room and making fun of me, making fun of my body type. I was still very thin at the time, but I definitely, I guess, was still curvier. I had stretch marks. I had curly, frizzy, crazy, kinky hair. That's just what I looked like. And I just had the trolls come through, and I would get called the N-word with a hard R on a daily basis. There was always somebody in there calling me that. And after a while, when it started to affect me to the point where I would look in the mirror every day and think, what's wrong with me? Why am I not beautiful? And, am I not what these people want? That's when it was enough. So when it started to take a toll on my day-to-day life and I stopped feeling beautiful is when I was like, time for me to go. So
God, I can understand that.
Yeah, I mean, I got on Twitter one day and I saw a woman of color tweet about getting on Cam Soda. And anytime I saw a woman of color tweet about getting on Cam, I was there for it. I loved watching them. I loved supporting them to any extent that I could. And she got on Cam Soda. I was like, what the hell is Cam Soda? Yeah. And when I went to that homepage, and on that homepage, I saw nothing but Hispanic women, Black women, curvy women, women that were thick, BBW, plus size. I was like, whoa, this is my kind of what? This is where I belong. This is what I look like. And the day I decided to get on that site in stream, I have not once received one insulting comment about my body, about my stretch marks, about my hair, my skin color, my lips, nothing. And that's home to me now. So I'm really glad I found that site, because if I hadn't, I don't think I would have continued with the career.
I love how you talk about looking and seeing like representations of people that look like you, because I think that's so, so important. And that's one of the things that I've really liked about the cam world and the indie clip world is the fact that people of so many different body types can find space.
Yeah, exactly.
And can see other women and other performers that look like them.
Yes, exactly. I remember when I was in like middle school, my girlfriends and I got so excited because like the annual Victoria's Secret fashion show was going to come on. And we were all talking about it at school. Oh, we can't wait to watch it. And I can't remember who said it, but some girl basically was like, I want to be a Victoria's Secret runway model one day. And then another girl's, well, you can't. And she's like, why not? And she's like, because you're Black. They don't allow Black girls up there. It's only white girls. And I was like, what? And when I went home and watched, I saw that. And I was like, Grandma, can you not be Black to be a Victoria's Secret runway model? Like, can you only be white? And she's like, no, you can be. It's just not curvy girls like me, curvy girls like your mom, women that look like your mom. And it's just not what they want to see on stage. And I just never understood it. And as I got older, I experienced it and now know what my mom was experiencing, what all the women in my family were experiencing.
There are a lot of men out there who have a lot of shame about their desires, about not desiring the sort of conventional Victoria's Secret runway model type woman, and they're maybe attracted to something different.
Yeah, I mean, that's been my experience, is that I've had lots of men come on and tell me, I'm embarrassed to say this, but like, I find you really attractive. And
oh my God, that's so
it is.
It's sad because it's coming from a place of hurt for them, though. It's not like they're not even trying to like be hurtful. They're hurting themselves.
Yeah. They were shamed for liking whatever it is that they liked. And the same thing has happened to me, Jesse. I mean, I have tons of white men that come to me. Yeah. And they're somehow race gets in the conversation or whatever. And they're like, I would always block them, never speak to them again. But they would be like, I like you because I like Black women and you're half Black, but you're still white passing. So there's like, there's nothing to be ashamed of. And I used to have boys in high school when I would date them. They'd be like, just don't tell my family that you're Black, okay? And you look white anyway, so like just say that you're white. Yeah. And I was like, it was something to be ashamed about,
right? You know? I think it's particularly interesting what happens in online work because there's enough of a distance that people feel like they can come out with their feelings, I think. And I think that there's a lot of working through of their own desires and how those get projected onto you. And you find out what sort of things people are ashamed about. And there's something that's really hard to take about that. I mean, obviously it's hard to take, but on the other hand, I feel like one of the things that that people like you and I can do is to represent why people that have our body shape are sexy just by themselves, and why people shouldn't be like ashamed to have those desires, and to kind of normalize something that's not just Victoria's Secret models.
Yeah. I mean, it's changing. So, I mean, like I said, like when I remember I was at XBIZ LA, and I was at the XBIZ LA Awards show, the XBIZ Awards show, and I was sitting at a table, and they gave us all these huge bags of like merch and stuff. Everyone was so excited to open them. So there's like 20 girls in the table, and we're all sitting there and opening them. And across from me, there's 3 plus size girls. And everyone's taking the stuff out. This is so cute. This is so cute. Oh, this skirt, this top, these leggings, these socks are so cute. And I remember when the girls, and myself included, got to the merch and we looked at it, one girl goes, "This may fit one of my boobs," you know, and it.
I mean, that's so sad, but also kind of funny.
Tiny little clothes, and it was just like, wait a minute, these are campsites where a large percentage of your girls are plus size and are curvy. Why aren't they being considered?
Right.
In the, I mean, I guess all body sizes too, because there's girls that are even tinier than the sizes that they give out.
Yeah.
But especially just being plus size, sitting there every single convention, getting this merch and getting all this stuff, and seeing that every girl around me that's above maybe a size 8 looking at it and being like, this won't go up past my knees.
No,
And
there's no way I could pull those bodysuits over my hips.
Oh
like I could just forget about it.
I'm not even that curvy, that like, and I'm like an 8, and still as an 8, these sizes aren't even going up my body or aren't fitting anything. I can't get the shirt. When I put the shirt on, you just hear the rip, and it just rip. And so it's just, you know, it was just so sad, because they deserve to enjoy the merch and everything just as much as everybody else does. So, I mean, and it's like 2018 now, and it's like times are really, really changing. So I'm really, really hoping at Avian they have a variety of sizes, not just plus sizes too, but maybe even extra, extra small and extra small. I understand from a business standpoint, if buying a ton of clothes that are XL, I guess not smart, because, you know, you don't have many plus size models, but we're here to make everybody feel included. And
well,
and they do have plus size models, and those plus size models are bringing in money. Like, they're bringing in real money.
Yeah. Are you kidding me? Oh my God. Yeah.
I mean, let's not pretend that like that's not a huge chunk of the industry.
Exactly. And that's why I was like, what? These girls are a huge, huge part of the industry. Like, why aren't they being included in all of this? I do think, I remember Ramona Flower from Chatterbait. I remember when I tweeted about, I really hope that conventions have plus size merch this year. I think she said something about Chatterbait has plus size merch. I haven't been to like a Chatterbait booth to get any merch yet or anything. So if they do, I'm hoping that everybody follows in their footsteps. And
I mean, it's really great to have Ramona Flower representing Chatterbait, though, because she's also dealt a lot with this and worked really hard to be, you know, a curvy model she was in Hustler, right?
Yeah,
PJ?
she got picked up by Hustler.
Yeah. So it's amazing, I think, to have not only to have models who are representing a lot of different body types, but also to have them be spokespeople for the sites as well.
I always feel like if I ever had a campsite of my own, I would want a few models that are active in the industry to be in it, because we know as models what models need and want. And I just imagine, like, what if like ManyVids had like a model working at the headquarters that could sit here and take all the requests from Twitter and take all the ideas that girls tweet about and everything, or any issues, just how wonderful these sites could be. They could be even bigger and better.
Absolutely. I think 100%. Workers should always be at the table.
How could you run a site without knowing how things work firsthand?
Right.
Exactly.
So it's like, it's important to listen to the models. It really is.
Yeah. I mean, they're the ones who bring in all the money. They're the center. They're the ones who are doing the work. They're the ones who are attracting all of the clients. Like, they are the centerpiece. So,
and it's not like this is some cookie cutter thing. Like, every successful model has built their own business from the ground up. Every single model is like a successful entrepreneur who has a certain sort of skill and brilliance for this kind of thing. So I mean, of course you want those people at the table. They've already proven themselves to be highly capable. Those are the first people you should be hiring.
The people in this industry are not models. To me, they're business people. Like, you have to understand business so well to be able to like market yourself and keep yourself like remaining relevant and thinking of all these like new creative ideas. I mean, there is just so much. And I remember when I used to tell my grandma about like, you know, how much would go into, say, like a rank month and everything you have to do from the making content to the advertising. And she's like, well, it's like you have your own little business. And I'm like, I am a business. You know, we're all a business. This is so intense.
Can you explain for our listeners what a rank month is real quick?
Most websites have like a rank and like there's number 1 through whatever. And you just want to try and rank as high as you can. It's just like a really like fun way to, it's like you can create a ton of content and have fun creative shows. And you just basically try and rank as high as you can on the site. And ranks are determined by whoever makes the most tokens in a month. So like rank months are usually, people usually do them once or twice a year, maybe their birthday month, or October is definitely a huge one. And you just plan tons of creative shows and you just try and just bust your ass off for 30 days, basically. I mean, I've seen some girls get online for rank months and cam 12 to 14 hours a day, every single day for 30 days.
That's wild.
And
yeah, that's crazy.
A lot of times there's like bonuses, right? For like the top ranking people.
There's like, can be bonuses like on Cam Soda. They have like a daily contest winner. They have a weekly contest winner and they have a monthly contest winner. And then, you know, MFC has like their huge rank thing. Like, I mean, for me, that's my goal one day. If I could be number 1 on MFC, that's just like an accomplishment. I would just like love to knock off my bucket list. I mean, I would probably never go back to the site, but still, it would say that you have that number 1 crown on MFC is just like insane. And I mean, it's so much work. I don't even know if I could handle the amount of work that girls put in, you know, for rank on MFC. It's intense.
Yeah. So tell me, you said that you talk about this with your grandma. How did your grandma take it when you told her what you were doing?
Everybody in my family knows. Everybody around me knows what I do. And it was as simple as when she came to me saying that she needed help, and I eventually showed up with what she needed. About a month later, it was, how did you make this kind of money? And she was my guardian. She took me in at 15 months old and, you know, was with me every single day until I was 18 and moved out.
Wow.
So it was a matter of, it was just too hard to keep things from her. It was just, you know, when I started having things of my own and I would move out, and, you know, my dad didn't find out about it really until I started having like actual success. And he was like, you know, where is she getting this from? And how is she doing this? And how is she traveling? And, you know, what does she do? You know, I never see her leave the house. What is she doing all day? Like, you know, like, you have like a rich boyfriend or something? Like, what's going on? But I came out to practically all my friends and everybody 2 years ago before XBIZ Miami 2017. I really wanted to get a ton of unique voters. I didn't just want my same fans voting all the time. I wanted everybody to vote for me. So I literally created a t-shirt that says, vote for me for XBIZ Cam Model of the Year if you think I'm hot. And then I like said the same thing on the back. And on my car, I took like, you know, when people write like just married on cars and those like markers, I wrote like vote for me for XBIZ.
Wow.
That's wild.
I wore the shirt out to the bars on the weekend with my girlfriends. I wore them around campus. I wore them to the grocery store, like everywhere. And I think that's what really got XBIZ's attention. And I received quite a bit of negative backlash from it. And
really?
But it was, I mean, these were like kids that I went to school with, people that I grew up with. And, you know, not everybody's accepting of the job. Everybody in my family was fine with it. And people that were very close to me were fine with it. But I think people were, because it was a very small town. So I think people were extremely offended by me parading around a porn company on my shirt and on the back of my car. And, you know, someone, you know, I remember the sheriff showed up in my house because I lived in like this little neighborhood, and the sheriff lived like right up the street. And he's like, oh, some people, you know, told me that you were walking around. I mean, he's a nice guy. He wasn't like scary or anything, you know, that you were walking around with some very crude things on your car and on your shirt. Like, what's this about? And I was like, hey, I'm a camp model. I'm not doing anything illegal. I'm not doing anything wrong, and I'm not hurting anybody. This is what I chose to do with my life. Some people don't like it. Like most people don't like it. And that's it. And I think that's what I did that, got XBIZ's attention and really kind of made me like stand out.
Yeah, that's a good story. It's so funny. I also am a fairly out person. And the other day, a neighbor that I don't know very well was talking to me, making conversation. And she said, and I thought this was really funny, she was like, that other neighbor, she looks everybody up online and figures out what they're up to. And she gossips about them. And I was wondering if she was trying to tell me that she knows what we do, but she wouldn't just come out and say it. And I was so tempted to say, yeah, well, whatever that neighbor found, it's actually true. Like,
oh my God.
But I didn't. I was just like, I'll just let her fumble around a little bit. But it was really funny.
I actually really appreciate these conversations, and it's nice to talk to you because, I love all our sex worker friends, but so many people I know are coming from big cities like New York, San Francisco, Vegas, LA, and don't necessarily deal with this stuff in the same way.
No, you don't
you
have
can kind of
neighbors
just
in your business when you live in a big city.
Yeah. And I think I love hearing stories. And I know there's a lot of us who are in smaller towns or smaller cities. And I just love hearing this other side of things because it is so different, like.
Yeah. Even the fact that there is a sheriff,
Yeah. See, I'm very honest and like open about where I'm from. So I'm from Columbus, Ohio. So Columbus is one of the biggest cities in the United States. But for about 2 years, I moved to this very small town called Athens, Ohio. And there was a university there called Ohio University. And if it weren't for the university, I think the population of the town would have been about 800 or 900 people.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So, and then I'm very awkward. So I didn't live in campus housing. I rented a house all the way up. There's a national forest around there. So I was all the way up in the forest, antisocial with all the old retired people. And when they're just nosy, living in Bible Belt, you really don't have anything better to do but be in everyone's business. So,
right.
I remember one neighbor would come over and he just always ask me questions and always stare at me. And, it's like he knew what I did, but he didn't know what I did. I wouldn't know how he would now. But it's everywhere I'd go, people would just look at me and be like, And I'm like, what? And they're just like, oh, nothing. And I'm like, oh, all right. Sorry. I'm sorry if you've seen me online. I'm sorry. Bye.
But also you were looking.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you were looking. You kept scrolling.
Right.
Okay. And then you decided to add me on Snapchat. Then you decided to buy my Snapchat. So do you kind of like this? And I remember one woman, her husband found out. And after he found out, he would just come and knock on my door every day and just offer to do the most random things. Do you want me to rake your leaves? Sure. Next day, want me to rake your leaves again? Sure. And I remember she came over one day and was kind of just like, I'd appreciate it if you just left us alone, even though I wasn't doing anything. I don't know.
Yeah. It is. It's something that's actually really difficult to negotiate. And we have kids too. So I had to, you have siblings that you take care of, so it's probably a similar thing. But I remember sitting down and talking to the kids and telling them what we did. And, they were raised by us, so they're pretty accepting. They're like, oh, all right, that's fine. And I was like, okay, but here's the thing. Not everybody will like this. So, you need to be prepared to deal with the fact that if people find out, they're going to have some opinions about it, and they're probably not going to be favorable. They may not be favorable, I should say. A lot of people, there are people who are like, yeah, whatever, or who find it really, really interesting and think that you're cooler than you are. There's a whole range of things.
People who just think you're famous, and they're like, oh my God, you're so badass. You must know every porn star ever. Or my siblings, I've only told the ones that are over 18.
Yeah.
And so I have one that's going to turn 20 in February. Then I have another one that's going to that just turned 18. And another one's going to turn 18 in December, or turned 18, whatever. I can't, there's so many of them. But anyway, so 2 or 3 of them basically know. And after I told them, they didn't really have much to say. And I was like, are you mad at me? Are you disappointed? Are you upset? and they're very religious. I wasn't raised too religious, but they're my half sibling. So they were raised by their dad very, very religiously. And they were like, why would we hate you? One, you're our sister, you're our own blood. But two, God wouldn't want us to hate you. God preaches love, basically. So like, what would we be doing by judging you for what you want to do with yourself? And hearing that come from two little girls, basically.
Yeah.
That, were raised so religiously and so small-mindedly, and hearing them be accepting of it was just, I think that's what matters. I just didn't want my siblings to, because I love them the absolute most. I didn't want them to hate me or never talk to me again. But thankfully, I guess Jesus came through, and they don't care.
Yeah. Yeah. We actually had a reverend on 2 episodes ago who was talking about how to have a sex positive ministry. And it was really like amazing the way that she was talking about being a religious person, but being open to, sex workers, and not open to, but supportive of, not just, tolerant. So yeah, I think you can be both of those things.
Like, people think you can't be one and the other. Like, how can you do porn but also be like a good person? You can't. You do porn. And I'm just like, oh, it doesn't work like that.
Right.
And I know some girls that do porn that are extremely, extremely religious. Catch them in church every single Sunday. And it's just like, you can be a hoe, but still be a religious hoe.
Yeah.
Like,
that'll be your pull quote for this episode.
Be what you want, and that's it.
Yeah.
I remember. Do you remember that one video that came out on Twitter of that one girl? They were at like a women's rights parade, and some comedian was asking her, like, if you love God, why would you be a hoe? And then she was like, because God would want me to be whatever I want to be. And he was like, so you're a hoe? And he's like, yes. And he was like, but you say you love God. And she's like, yeah. He's like, but God wouldn't want me to be a hoe. She's like, God would want me to be whatever I want to be. And that's it. Like, that's just, it should just be what you want. In the end, I'm done. Thank you for coming to my TED.
Yeah. Absolutely. I totally agree with you. As long as you're not hurting anyone, it's all good.
What are you up to these days?
Well, I guess I really wanted, when I entered this industry, I wanted to build myself to a point where I didn't have to work the amount that I had to work to get into the industry. And I'm more private nowadays. I've experienced a lot of negativity. Now that I'm at a point of success where I'm comfortable, I don't feel the need to constantly post on social media about what I'm doing, what I'm up to. And unfortunately, when I got an XBIZ Cam Model of the Year nomination in January, some people weren't happy about it. They're like, this girl doesn't work. She never posts about working. She never posts about being on cam. How can you give this girl a nomination? And it's just like, just because you see my life on social media and what I'm doing on social media, you have like no idea what I'm doing behind the scenes. And I'm working on a few things that I am very, very excited about. And I'll have an announcement to make in January that I really can't say anything about now, but it's what I've been working on for a while, and it's going to put me in like a whole new part of the industry, and I'm really, really excited about it.
Oh, cool.
So I think I've just been kind of taking the past few months. I mean, as you know, great-grandmother, grandmother, and Dave all passed away within a couple months of each other. So I think I really just needed some time to just sit and be, because I had lost some people that were so, so essential to my life. It kind of broke me down, and I've been focusing on building myself back up. I plan on pursuing a lot of very awesome opportunities in January. When I do that, I want to be the best me that I can be. And I'm not going to be the best cam model and other things that I could be if I'm not truly at my best, I guess. So I think I'm chilling. I do my own thing. I do Snapchat stuff. My main thing, I do lots of private shows and like Skypes and like things like that. Like that's like my main thing. I do at least one of those a day. As far as camming, I'm just chilling. Yeah. I mean, people think I'm like retired or something, but it's really not a retirement. I need a time to get my mental health together. We all know that sometimes you just hit those points in life where you just need to have that moment to yourself. And I guess that's what I'm doing.
Yeah,
that was so long.
Sure. No,
it's really, I actually prefer doing one-on-one shows. I like that better.
Yeah, it's really fun. And you can just get so creative with it. And again, it's just another way to have that more personal experience with a fan.
Yeah, you can really have pretty intense and like serious conversations with people.
Yeah, exactly. And just, having that one-on-one experience with the model that you love instead of like that experience where she's in the chat room and she's chatting with a ton of other people. That one-on-one experience, I think too, like offering tons of privates and Skypes is something that really helped me because they get to see what they want to see, exactly what they want to see. You can say their name. You can wear the outfits that they like. It's just so specific to them. It just makes them feel special.
Mm-hmm.
Since I was a kid, I told myself if I ever had any kind of platform, I would use it to change the world to as much as I could, to the extent that I could, really.
Mm-hmm.
And I think being a sex worker, being a woman of color, and being curvy, those are all things in society that, there's lots of controversy. If I don't speak up, and if the people around me and in our community don't speak up, things won't change. And, people think, well, how could I change the world with my 1,000 followers? How could I change the world with one tweet? And to me, it's about if I tweet something and just one person reads that tweet and learns something new from it, it changes their mind, makes them become less ignorant towards whatever the tweet is about, then I did my job. And you can't have change in the world without speaking up. Like, think, women wouldn't be able to vote if there was no woman suffrage parade.
Mm-hmm.
There's such a small amount of people that are willing to get up and scream and change the world and go out and make change happen. So I'm like, okay, not many people want to do that because a lot of people are scared to do that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I'm just not afraid of that. And
I love strong women, but I love people who are willing to say things that other people don't want to say. And I think that there's so much power in that.
And I think as a sex worker, I remember I was at a Cheesecake Factory 2 years ago and I was talking to a woman. I can't remember what I was talking to her about. And I remember I tweeted about it too. And we just had the best conversation. I basically got on the subject that I was a webcam model. She thought a webcam model was literally a person that designed and created webcams. And I was like, no, I do this, that, and the other. And she goes, wow, you're well-spoken and intelligent for a porn star. And I'm like, why would me doing sex work have anything to do with my intelligence and what I'm capable of and, my education? And I think especially when people meet someone like me, they meet a sex worker and, say I go out to a party and they're like, oh, I'm going to introduce you to my friend Vera. Yeah, she's the girl that's the cam girl that you see on Twitter all the time. And they meet me. And at the end of the night, they always end up, kind of pulling me aside and saying, I was really weary to meet you, but you're actually really smart. And even though it's kind of offensive when they say that, because why wouldn't I? Smart. It's if I can be a sex worker and I can go out as a sex worker and people expect the absolute least of me and then I show them how intelligent I am, it really changes their mind. They're like, wow, I expected absolutely nothing from you because of what you do.
Yeah.
And then you came to the table and you brought all of this. But you're great.
That's so, I think that that's really important. I think it's so funny, though, that there's that perception from outside. I was talking to somebody who is not a sex worker and who didn't know that much about sex work before following a bunch of sex workers on Twitter and kind of making his way into Twitter. And he was like, I can't believe it, but sex workers are really socially conscious and really smart. We are interacting with the world in ways that are very different than most people and have a lot to say. And I think that a lot of people should be paying more attention, actually.
We experience a part of the world of so few people get to experience, and we experience like another level of harassment and judgment that so few people experience. I mean, literally, like I had some guy told me, as a sex worker, he was like, there's not much lower in society's mind that you can go besides sex work. So I'm so proud of you for showing them and proving them wrong and proving them that there's just so much to offer. And
Yeah, I think those personal interactions are really powerful. I think, those are one of the few things that can change people's minds. I don't know, just engaging people on that individual level. It's that old feminist axiom, the personal is political. That's one of the few ways that people actually change their perceptions of the world. And I also think that I also think that this kind of work is really important. Like in terms of representation, I think that, there's something really powerful just about being on these platforms and just pushing people's ideas of what it means to be sexy, what it means to be beautiful, what is appropriate to desire, and saying like, hey, there's no shame in this. This is awesome. And you can totally be part of it. And there's something that's just, so political in that. And I think often outsiders don't understand that. But I think when you're doing the work, you really understand how political it is and how much power it has to shape people's lives.
100%. This is so deep. This is so deep. Like, wow, I should be in a book. Like, that's why I really enjoy things like your guys' podcasts or just anything that, I really do hope like podcasts like these grow to be huge and extremely mainstream one day, just so you could bring people on here and just show the vanilla world what we have. Like there's so much complexity
and really strong people, really strong and really interesting and really insightful people.
Smartest, strongest, most wonderful people I have ever met are from this industry, and everyone in this industry is usually extremely nice and compassionate and caring, because we all know what it's like to almost essentially be hated by so many people. So when I'm and at these conventions, and even though I'm very shy and get really nervous like everybody else, it feels like home. Even though everybody's a bunch of strangers, it's like home, because it's like where I just know I was meant to
be. Yeah, I feel that. It's so funny because I was, I didn't get into this when I was 18. I was much older, but I felt like I did so many other things before this that led up to this seeming like home to me in ways that other jobs that I've had or other things that I've done haven't. And that's been a really interesting experience, because it's not what I imagined when I was younger. I mean, I didn't actually think about it that much at all. Like, I didn't have really negative connotations, but I didn't imagine like I'm going to work in the adult industry. Like, it's just something that came like on the path that I was walking on. And I'm so super grateful for that.
Absolutely. Here we are. Well, here's a question for you guys. I remember last year, maybe it was a couple of years ago, there was a lot of controversies around award show season because people felt that there weren't broad enough categories. I think this was before they added like BBW cam model, BBW model. Do you guys think there should be, and I know people were very back and forth on it because, someone was like, one girl was like, oh, you should have categories for performers that are people of color. And things like that. But then other people were like, well, no, why would you have a category for them? Because they shouldn't have to be in their own category. Yeah. They're just people like everybody else.
What do I think about that? I actually think that ignores the fact. I think that when people say things like that, I understand why they say them. But on the other hand, I feel like it ignores the fact that people who are different races or people who have different body types or different ages, like actually have very different experiences in the industry.
And different opportunities.
It makes sense to recognize that it is not the same experience for a 22-year-old white woman to be a camera as it is for maybe a 40-year-old woman of color. And maybe if we were to recognize how people have different experiences within the industry, have different opportunities, are doing something different, those are different client bases. I don't know that there's a problem with that.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I totally understand that argument and respect where people are coming from. But like my feeling, just plain and simple, anytime we give more awards to women of color, anytime we give more awards to BBWs, that's a good thing. That's more women of color, more BBWs who are having opportunities. That's going to boost their careers. Anytime we can extend that recognition, even if it's not perfect and we'd love to see them integrated in the other categories, at the end of the day, if there are more BBW women and more women of color walking home with awards than otherwise, then I think that's a good thing.
What shouldn't happen, though, and I don't know how you would guard against this, I think this is kind of the fear, is that the Cam Girl of the Year or the categories that aren't specifically raced or something like that then become the default primary categories. And if they're going to be like hierarchicalized, I think that's a problem. But
you're just saying if only white people get nominated for Cam Girl of the Year and only skinny people?
Yeah, I know. That's what I wouldn't want to see is that then if women of color are getting like segregated out from the other mainstream awards, I think that's a problem. But if we're going to create space to recognize people, I think that could be a good thing. I don't know. It's really complicated.
Yeah, that's why I didn't really have any opinion. Someone brought the point up to me the other day, and I was just like, that is such a good question. I don't even know.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think that's like one of those clear-cut things.
Both sides make sense. I see where both people are coming from. But
Yeah. So thank you so much for joining us today. If people want to find you, where can they find you?
Absolutely. If you want to find me, you can follow me on Twitter. My Twitter is at Vera, Vera Sky Live. By the way, you guys are the first industry people that have ever said my name right. Everyone says Vera, and I hate that so. It is one letter off from why would you change the entire pronunciation of the word? But yeah, so Vera Sky, if you want to see really annoying tweets all day. Vera Rose Sky is my Instagram if you want to see pictures of my dog all day. And then Snapchat is Princess VTV. I mean, my social medias are all different, which I think is actually really irresponsible of me as a business person. But I'll fix that one day because all my news is taken. So, and then if you want to find me on Cam, I am camsoda.com/Vera Sky. I'm pretty much Vera Sky on everything. And if I'm not Vera Sky, then you're being catfished if you see my photo somewhere else. The end. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for talking with us this afternoon.
Thank you for joining us for yet another episode of the Peep Show podcast. I'm PJ Sage, and you can find me on Twitter at PeachSage.
And I'm Jessie Sage, and you can find me on Twitter at sapiotextual or at jessiesage.com.
We would like to remind you that we have a Patreon account and would appreciate your support. Please visit patreon.com/peepshowpodcast. Our music is courtesy of Joe Kennedy. The show was produced by Jessie and PJ Sage.
Signing off. Have a great week.